Using rare granite from just one island in the world, experienced stonemasons turn these giant boulders into hundreds of uniform curling stones. But these aren't just any curling stones. They're the only ones allowed in the Olympic Games. A single stone certified for the Olympics costs over $600. That makes a full set of 16 stones worth $9,600. So how are Olympic curling stones made? And why are they so expensive? Since 2006, every curling stone used in the Olympic Winter Games has come from here. It's produced stones since 1851, but today there are just 10 people in the world who make them.
They love what they do. They're very passionate about it because they know that this particular block of granite they're working on that becomes a curling stone could be the stone that's thrown for the gold medal at the Olympic Games. It could be the stone that decides a world championship.
Every stone comes from one tiny island off the coast of Scotland. For over a century, masons have ventured to Ailsa Craig Island to harvest granite for curling stones. Until its lease expires in 2050, Kay's is the only company in the world with permission to harvest granite here. And for curling, Ailsa Craig's granite structure is the gold standard. But getting granite to the mainland is far from simple.
Well, the harvesting process is a logistical work of art, I think. There is nothing on the island, as you say. It's uninhabited. There's no water supply other than some running water from the rivers and streams on the island. There's no electricity supply, so we have to take absolutely everything with us.
Kay's uses two types of granite from the island to produce curling stones. First, there's blue hone granite, which makes up the layer that runs along the ice. Then common green is used for the part that strikes other stones.
This is Ailsa Craig common green granite, so this makes up the full body of the stone. You can also see this slightly lighter greyer colour granite inside, and this is Ailsa Craig blue hone.
The rock is densely constructed, thanks to how well its fine-grained crystals and the feldspar interlock. This makes the stone resilient. While other rocks might crack or splinter, Ailsa Craig granite stays intact amid cold temperatures and collisions. Most other rocks will have imperfections, like veins that cut through the stone. And while it's not free from weaknesses, there aren't many throughout Ailsa Craig rock. Weaknesses make it more likely a stone will fracture upon hard impact, something that would upend a curling game. Before Kay's can begin making stones, each rock is cut into slabs. But not all the granite the company harvests is suitable for a curling stone. Sometimes areas of a slab have small imperfections that could cause it to erode or impact the game.
It's generally because there's a flaw or a fissure or a crack or something in it.
This is where the eye of the masons comes in. Throughout the process, they assess the granite and confirm it satisfies Olympic requirements.
The slab thickness, we're looking for 145 millimeters, 14.5 centimeters thick. Then that gives us the ideal depth for coring, which then allows us to shape the stone while retaining the weight.
From the slab, Kay's marks only the best parts worth coring, which are the areas it'll eventually shape into stones.
We've gone to a lot of time and effort to bring this resource from an island over to the mainland that we want to make the most effective use out of it. We can get boulders off the island that can be in the region of 5 to 7 tons. They will yield way more than 5 or 6 cheeses per ton. But if we average it out across a whole harvest, then if we get around 6 cheeses per ton, we're doing pretty well.
They call them cheeses, for no clear reason other than...
I suppose in one respect they maybe look like a Baby Bell cheese or something like that. I've never really thought about it too deeply, to be honest.
While the process today largely depends on machines, it needs experienced craftspeople to see each stage through.
The cutting process or the coring process is a skill or an art in itself. So while it's semi-automatic in terms of feeding itself in, the speed is manually controlled, and that's where the skill of the operator comes in.
After each cheese has been cored, masons chip away the excess stone around the corners and prepare it for shaping. The International Olympic Committee determines the size, shape, and weight of each stone for the games. Before the stone reaches its final shape, masons fit the blue hone granite into the common green body. The stone itself weighs 40 pounds, plus another pound for the handle. After it reaches its final form, it's time to polish it. Each stone needs to be uniform in weight, size, and running surface. The running surface on the bottom determines how much the stone curls. To curl, there needs to be friction between the ice and the stone. That roughness is achieved by the experienced hand of a mason. Kayes stores granite over time, returning to Ailsa Craig about once a decade. Other producers harvest granite from the Trevor Quarry in Wales. Kayes once sourced granite from Trevor too, but Mark says quality control issues turned it away. And it didn't hurt that the World Curling Federation preferred Ailsa Craig stones.
They found that the Kayes stones with the insert, the blue hone insert, were the best because they also discovered that having a curling stone that's not got a blue hone insert will pit. It will has a certain porosity, it will pull in water, and water and ice will then freeze. When water freezes, it expands, leads to the detriment or the damage to the stone.
While curling has recently skyrocketed in popularity, demand for stones has fluctuated since the game began. Curling is believed to have started in Scotland, but today, Canada is the most successful team in the history of curling. Curling here goes back to the late 19th century,
A curling stone gets some last-minute polishing.
when many of the Scots who immigrated to Canada brought the game with them. By the 50s, Canada was building hundreds of curling rinks. Now retired, Jimmy Wiley worked at Kayes during this period and saw the company thrive before demand dropped again.
When all of these new ice rinks in Canada were satisfied, the demand fell off dramatically. So we went from 25, 30 people down to about between 5 and 10 people.
A major component that's kept the game and Kayes alive today, the Winter Olympics.
When curling was put back into the Olympics, it was great. It was a momentous moment in terms of curling stone manufacture because it suddenly opened curling up to the world. In 1998, there was only 25 countries in the world that were in any way involved in curling, and now 20 years later, that's almost tripled.
As of 2022, 67 countries compete in curling. Naturally, that's created an uptick in demand for stones, which has carried over into their price.
We have increased our sales, which is really, really good news. Having said that, we've also increased our costs because we'll have to go back for granite more frequently and to satisfy the demands.
In 2000, Kayes harvested about 1,500 metric tons of common green and about 300 metric tons of blue hone. 13 years later, it took 2,500 metric tons of common green and 500 metric tons of blue hone. Fortunately for the growing interest in the sport, and for the only supplier of Olympic curling stones, supply isn't a problem.
The last harvest in November 2020, we took less than 0.01% of the island. So we're scratching the surface. The whole island is made of granite. We're not making that big a dent in it.